Hi, everyone. This is Esateys.
And this is Raphael, and welcome back to Relationships Done Different. Today's show is going to be about your job and your relationship. And the question is, what comes first? Your job, your relationship, your career?
That's a lot.
Well, I personally was, since I am now a recovering lawyer, I was practicing law in New York City. I was like really focused on becoming a good lawyer. I spent so much time, even when I wasn't working, reading tax journals and all that stuff because I was a tax lawyer. And careers, as most people know, can really become all-consuming. So the question is the balance, I guess. What do we do? I mean, we want to succeed. We want to provide for our family. This is from a male perspective, and I'm guessing from a female perspective as well. What do we do?
Well, first of all, I just want to make a very quick delineation between job and career. People that have jobs are people that go to work to make $1. These days it's more than $1, but just to make money. People that have a career may be doing that same thing, but it's something where they usually have become educated. Their whole life is devoted to that. And it's usually comes with passion, at least for a certain period of time.
That sounds a little optimistic. And what word am I looking for? It's like, I don't know if that's really true.
Okay, so I'm going to differentiate this. So we got the job where you go to work and you work 9 to 5 and you get your money and you go home and you never think about it again. A career is where you probably work like 9 to 9 or more. And it's something that you're building and expanding on a continuous basis and becoming all that you can be. And then there's your passion. And your passion is where you are really committed to doing what you do because, for lack of a better term, you can't not do it. Like what I do is a passion. I can't not do it. Now, add in there, you could say this is a career, and it's definitely done for the desire to create income. And the truth is, if the need, if you will, for income wasn't there, I'd still do what I'm doing. And that's a test question for people. When you are doing what it is you really love to do and you have passion about it, you would do it even if you weren't paid to do it, if you could possibly survive financially to do that. So I just wanted to set that up because people sometimes, they don't differentiate that. And there's a very big difference because it will make a difference on how it is that you be in your relationship based on how you are living your life in one of those 3 categories.
Okay, I understand that. I guess the real question is, does it really matter whether it's a job or it's a career or it's a passion vis-a-vis the relationship?
It does.
Explain. And
it does because actually there's a lot of things that we would weigh here, if you will.
I'm playing Stump Esateys today.
Go for it. The relationship is going to be factored into your life, including your job, career, or passion, depending upon where you're at in your relationship. If you're not so happy in your relationship, well, it may be because your priority already has been chosen to make the money, build the career, live your passion. And whether it's a passion or whether it is a career, a lot of times that takes more time than somebody might ideally consciously choose, like 40 plus hours. Again, you can't not really do that when you're building something. Usually when you're in a career, you're building something to become more educated, to make more money, to get a bigger following or clientele or whatever you're doing. And pretty much the same is true with passion, although with passion, it may not really matter to you. You just want to be able to express what it is that you know and what it is that you love. So if your relationship is not so great, then you may put more energy into the job, career, or passion than somebody else who has a really amazing relationship. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's totally understandable. We use the job or we use the career as to get our
measurement.
What?
An escape mechanism.
An escape, yeah, to get really what we want, and that's what we think will make us happy. Okay, got it. But now I have a passion. Well, I want to take my example for a second. Before I was married, I became a lawyer and I practiced law, and that was a career. And then when I got into a relationship, the practice of law and building my career in a big law firm, all that stuff was important for me because maybe it was ego or whatever, but it was just something I needed to do. Then I get into this great relationship, and then how do I balance it? So we can have a career without passion, but is important to us. So maybe that gives us a passion. I don't know. I mean, I was a tax lawyer. I loved tax law because it allowed me to express my creativity and do some kind of neat stuff. But it wasn't the be all and the end all of my existence, but it was fun.
It wasn't your passion.
Right. It was sort of my passion, but not a real driving passion. And then I have a relationship. And so where do you draw the line? And that's the question for you today.
Okay, so we're turning this around today on you.
I think maybe we'll do a new show.
I know this was like a while ago, many years ago.
A lot of years ago.
How did you do it? What did you do? Did one suffer over the other? How did you deal with the circumstances? Putting him on the spot.
I'm pleading the fifth.
She probably will never listen to this, so go ahead.
That's good. I hope not, because, well.
Yes, honey?
God, this is a tough one. You're supposed to be the one answering the questions. Okay, so I'll answer them as truthfully and as timidly as I can. To me, I would honestly say that my career and building it, and I wanted to be a partner in a law firm, and I wanted the prestige, and I wanted all of those things. That was a pretty high priority for me. And I had kids, and that was a high priority for me. But yet I still worked the hours and did what I had to do to create the career. And everybody who has a career like that and who has a career that takes a number of years to really establish knows the dilemma and the pull between being at home and then being in the workplace. So I have to say, for me personally, it was important to build the career. Now, back then, I don't think I was awake and as aware as I am today. So I got a big duh for those of you who didn't hear it. So I don't know that I would have made the same decision today, but I very well might have.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that you put more time, attention, and focus on your career than you did your relationship.
Yes, I tried to balance it as much as I could.
And do you think that influenced your relationship?
Definitely.
So would you say that that could have been one of the factors that caused your relationship to end over time?
I can assume that, yep.
Okay. So the reason that
Can I just interrupt you? The other side of the coin is, if I didn't take the time to develop the career, nurture it, and do all those things, then we would, as a family, with the kids and everybody else, we would not have had the financial success that we had, that I achieved while I was in the law firm.
Right. And just since we're just having an authenticity moment.
I love it. This is so much fun. Wait till I get to you.
There's a little bit of justification in there for you as you speak, because if I don't give to the relationship, then we might have been pouring on the streets or something. I mean, I know you're not saying it that extreme, but the societal demands and all that kind of stuff was a very strong pull. And so it gave you a rationalization to do what it was that you really wanted to do. There's nothing wrong with that. You know that this work is all about awareness. This is about becoming aware of what we do, why we do it, and then learn how to just observe that without any kind of judgment. Remember always that we do not know what we do not know. And you were very accurate when you said you weren't as awake then as you are now. because it probably never consciously dawned on you the side effects of what might have happened unless you did. And
for me, not a clue, for sure.
Okay. So the reason I was, from your mind, probably drilling you so hard on this is because you are a person back then that is a typical example of what happens for people that are out there in the world that don't know what they don't know.
I totally agree with that. And I just see that big dilemma: succeed, success, provide money, or not, or do other things. So that was my dilemma.
So there is then underneath that a belief system that it's impossible to have it both.
That is really true. I picked a profession where I had to be at my A game all the time. In my profession as a lawyer and as an associate growing up in a big New York City law firm, I was judged pretty much on what I did today, and what I did yesterday was not all that much relevant. So it's who I was in that present moment, and that did create a lot of pressure. And now that I'm thinking about it, I can really see how that pressure, how that need to keep my A game up was a very underlying threat to my existence.
Absolutely true. And that's what's true of virtually everyone. And people are still doing that today. Maybe it's not the societal thing, but when you look underneath that, it's a survival thing. It's truly a sense of, if I don't succeed at this, I either won't have the notoriety and that kind of stuff, which then in our rational mind says, well, if I don't have that, then I don't have the income. But it always boils down to, if I don't have the income, then it becomes literally life-threatening to me on a real scale.
So it's fear. It's fear. If I don't keep working, if I don't keep being the top of my game and all that kind of stuff, then I'm not going to succeed and I won't have blah, 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 blah. So in today and the work that we do, I understand a whole lot more, that I have to really know who I am and be confident that I can do exactly what I need to do when I need to do it, so that I can succeed without being fixed on it, being, making it the most important thing in my life. I could really see that.
Yes. And part of that is because you have reached a place where you don't have to be at the biggest law firm, so to speak. You don't have to be number one in the world with what it is that you do.
And that is so true. I mean, it's like I live in a different world now, and I'm happy to say that. I just want to say, we watch, here's another little disclosure moment. Esateys and I very often watch the series Suits, the law series Suits, which is about a New York City law firm. And I could very, very much relate to the pressure and everything that they go under. And if you haven't seen that, you can really see how your life gets taken from you without you even knowing it. And you're just swept away. And I will say, in retrospect, that happened to me.
This is what happens to virtually everyone in one area of their life or another. They go to sleep. They're either already asleep and have never even reached a place of awareness or awakenedness. And if they have, they're pulled back in to the big bucket in the sky, as I call it, which is just the global way of thinking, the global consciousness, which is that it's critical for you to follow the crowd, do the things that everybody says you're supposed to do. Your individuality goes completely out the window, if you ever even had it, because the desperate need to be loved is so strong, to be accepted is so strong, that we lose ourselves and we just follow the crowd, whether it's going to lead us off the edge of a cliff or not. And the perfect example of this is with kids in school. Even as young as, I just had a conversation with someone who they have like a 11-year-old child, and they're wearing makeup and they've got their whole thing about how they want their hair and all of this kind of stuff at 11. Heck, I was wearing pigtails and riding my horse in the country.
Oh, I would give anything to have seen that.
Yeah, I might be able to find you a picture. When I was way older, I didn't even wear makeup or anything till I was like 15 or something. And I came from a completely different generation and a different way of living. These days, it's a much different world. And the world that we're living in today is so driven by us being accepted and us looking the best and feeling the best and all this kind of stuff to the world. Forget about our own self. And the bottom line is when this comes down to what we pick in our relationship versus our career is that we are wanting to just literally stop and take a look at our lives and take a look at where you're living and what are you doing and why are you doing it. If everyone who is listening takes a moment and looks at their life, even if you don't quote unquote have a job or even a career, where is your focus? What's number one for you? And the truth is there is no right or wrong what you do. The key is that when you understand that what you're doing is based on true passion, or is it based on absolute fear? And that fear can look like being accepted, being poor, being any of those things. And if you start off with that, that's going to be a really important piece for you to take a look at.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you were speaking about my midlife crisis when I hit 40, and we'll talk about that right after this break. So we'll be right back, and I'm going to ask you a question about how that affected everything. I have to ask this question because when I hit 40, I had financial success. I had very good success in my law firm. I had everything one could desire. I had my own business. I had my second own business by that time. I had left law, but I had all of these successes. And I kept looking for, so what? It's like I was unhappy and I didn't know why. It wasn't financial. I love my kids. But there was just something missing for me, that proverbial, is that all there is? Yeah, is that all there is? I keep thinking of the Peggy Lee song about that. So I want to just ask you, how do we reconcile all of that with this whole business about the priority that we take in our lives?
Our priorities are going to change virtually in every minute. And certainly everything in life is cyclic. Everything's going to go in a cycle.
And that's an important point. Thank you. That's a very important point.
So we will do what it is that we do until in our own evolutionary journey, there's something else that is going to be more empowering to take us to the next level of who we really are. Everything that's happening in what I'll call the external world, or the world of form, is something that allows us to be brought back into ourselves. That's why our lives don't stay quote unquote perfect. When we have everything going for us, we're just going to zip along. And the minute the world starts falling apart, was at the time when eventually the business went down the, where and all of that happened. You see, it's very typical. There's two parts of it. One is we live in a world of polarity. So when you're up high and you're riding on that magic carpet and everything seems oh so awesome, just know that somebody will turn off that air machine that's kept your carpet up there and you will fall to the ground because it's a polarity-based system. That means that you will then suddenly have things where business isn't going so good, your relationship falls apart, somebody that you know dies, you become ill, whatever it is, there is purpose for that. And the purpose is to help you look more deeply into yourself and start to drive you more inwardly to your internal world. In other words, eventually people will get to the place where when their external world is not working, that's when most people, for lack of a better term, get on their knees and they start going inside and they are born again, or they have some major life transition that creates a depth that is not there prior to that. And that was your moment, actually, where you got to see that, is that all there is? No. And it didn't feel good to make that transition. But we are not usually feeling good when our wake-up calls come to us.
And we can't have the wake-up calls unless we're in pain.
And some people right now are going to say, oh, no, that's not true for me. I'm going to have it all from now on into forever. And
I used to think that.
So did I, actually. And what I will say is that there could be an exception to any quote-unquote rule in the world. It is not my experience unless you're the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lama, the guy who's there now, he knew in utero, he was consciously aware that he was a reincarnation of Dalai Lama 13. And so he came in, obviously, extremely awake. I mean, he was already wherever it is that people think you're going to go.
Didn't that apply to me?
Yeah, on some level.
This is called like major avoidance and being out there in La La Land for me.
So at any rate, that is one of the things that is important to realize, that if your life is going up and down, that's not a bad thing. It just seems like a bad thing because you don't know the gift that is there. Remember. Everything has a gift in it. Everything has a gift in it. Everything and everyone and every circumstance has a gift in it for you. But let's get back to this whole, how do I balance this?
What's the advice to give to someone who's balancing career and relationship?
Okay, the first step is to get real. Get honest with yourself. Be impeccable to you. As I said a little while ago, go inside and see, what are your priorities? You don't have to tell anyone at this particular moment. Just write it down. If you wrote down even the two things, career, job, passion, in that category, or relationship, what is it that's most important to you? And if you're already in relationship, or whether you're not in relationship, you can still do that same thing. Always understand that relationship is a self-development course. And so is your career, your job, even your passion. Those are all self-development courses. It becomes a matter of, what is it that you want to put your focus on now? So let's just say that you have a relationship and you have a career, and you're really being torn between the two because you quote unquote should spend more time at home, or you're feeling guilty because you're not getting to the kids' games and all that kind of stuff.
I didn't hear you say you want to spend more time at home. I heard you should spend more time at home. That's pretty telling.
Yeah, that's the key that people have to, you who are listening, look inside and see if your is I want to, I choose to, versus I should. That's going to give you a clue why your emphasis is in one direction or the other. There's usually no such thing as balance. So let's just
say that again.
I know.
I just wrote a whole thing about balance. Oh my
whoops,
gosh.
I better proofread it. Balance is really a misnomer in general, because we become really engaged and on fire about something, and that's where we put our attention. So let's just say you're in a relationship and you also have a career and you really love both, and you don't know how to make that work. One of the things that's really critical is to sit down and have a conversation with your partner.
Have the talk
with your partner and share what's going on with you. Say, look, I so love you and I so love my job or my career, and I want to know how you're feeling about this. So just open up the doorway between the two. And then you will also recognize that if you're picking one over the other and you're feeling like, I want to spend more time with my kids, or I should spend more time with my kids, and I can't leave my career because, quote unquote, it won't flourish. I won't make the money, blah, blah, blah. Underneath that, look at that fear of survival. Look at that fear of lack. Look at the fear that is ruling your life, because underneath there, you're not happy. You may think that you want your career, but if a part of you is over there wishing that you were more with your family, then it becomes a real dichotomy. So my brother-in-law, who has since passed, was, I thought, really amazing with this because he had a career. He was in insurance and he had done it for like 30, 40 years or something like that. And yet he loved his family and his kids and doing stuff in life. So he found a way to master this by working 4 days a week and taking Fridays off. So he was with his family 3 days a week. And in doing so, his business didn't suffer one iota. Was he making 3 times as much as he thought he could? No. And he made just as much money as he was when he was stressing, and he got to spend time with his family in a way that he otherwise would have when he got ill. He would have missed out on all of that. So you have to decide for yourself whether you want to live for the dollar and then die, or live life and be okay with being okay. And most importantly, if you are going inside and you are connected to yourself and you find your peace first internally, then exactly what to do in that exact moment will come through you, if you will, and you won't be needing to make head decisions. The problem is people are making head decisions instead of heart decisions. They're making decisions based on fear, which is where 99.9% of all decisions are made from, rather than what's really going to connect me to true peace, true joy, and true happiness. And I will tell you that none of that job, career, passion, or family, or children, or money, none of that's going to give you absolute, unwavering, pure joy and connection. That needs to come from inside. And when you are in a true state of connection, then that overflows and you share it, and all that you have is embellished.
That's really cool. And so really the takeaway from this part, or the answer to the question is, when I asked you a few minutes ago and you started on that answer, is that the real choice is going inside. The real path is to go inside and see what is absolutely true for you, and being awake and aware, and then discussing it and having that flow through to your partner. And what I was going to just say, and I know we're running out of time for this section, but the other thought is, I have a career. My wife is home with the kids. All of a sudden, my kids get old enough and my wife says, I want to go out and have a career too. So now she's balancing that same thing. She's balancing the career, the children, the relationships, and spending the time. And she has exactly the same problem, but it's compounded now because she's the one who's expected to take care of the kids. Ow. Whew. So this is really a complex subject because it's all, and I go back to what you said earlier, it's all about our expectations of what society thinks we should or how we have to be.
People, please do not let society be your God. They are never going to be there at your bedside. They're not going to pay your bills. They're not going to be there in a way that you think you need. I'm not saying don't have friends and don't love all of mankind, but if you don't come back to within and your first priority be working on yourself into your purest connection, the rest will always be a disappointment.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We are going to go to our next section of the program. We have a really interesting question today.
Wasn't it from I think I remember because he sent that email. I'll tell you what he wrote because it was a big impact for me. And he wrote an email.
Oh, it was about the game called Life.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly. Was it Miles or who was it? From Spokane. I remember that.
The question from Miles, who's from Spokane, was, wow, your last episode on the game called Life really blew me away. And it's a simple question. Why is it really important that I know this information?
Because you listened to it.
Say that again.
It's important to you because you brought it to yourself to listen. Anybody who's listening to any of these podcasts, any of these questions and taking those questions home, that I give you at the end and utilizing them is receiving a gift, and they're offered a gift and they're receiving the gift. When you listen to this, you are receiving a gift. You don't have to know exactly why you're receiving the gift, because in the natural state of your life, things will come to you that will help you better understand that. But I will answer your question. The reason that it's important is because people that are not investigating, open up to, or realizing that there are other options in their life, live a life that's very constricted and tunnel-like. And that means that they stay in that place that I always say like 100 times, is you don't know what you don't know. So when you, as you know, I call myself the option queen a lot because I give people options of different ways of looking at life. That's why we call this Relationships Done Different, because the majority of things that are underlying our lives are things that people don't even realize are there. So, Miles, when you are listening to this and your mind gets kind of blown out, that's actually a beautiful thing. What would be most powerful for you is to not even question it, not even try to figure it out. Don't try to put it in a box, because the minute you try to put it in a box, you have just lowered the ability of its gift to really open up your mind and expand you. That's a really important thing for all of you, for every one of us, to remember is just let it be. It is amazing how hard it is for us to just let things be as they are. And when you come into a place where you're exposed to something like this kind of thought process, then you are now at option about how you want to live your next moment. You have awareness that can allow you to make a different choice. You are in a place where you will be able to see that you don't have to act out of recycled ignorance. Rather, you have a new way of framing something. Your perception has an opportunity to be shifted. And when you have a different perception, your life feels differently. And when you are feeling differently in a really awesome, powerful way, then you're experiencing more happiness. You're experiencing more expansion. You're experiencing more peace. You're experiencing less resistance. And we all know that the only way to real joy is to live in a non-resistive way.
That was very powerful. So really what I got out of that, and what I was just contemplating as you were speaking, is that the actual knowledge of what the game called life is not really important. It's the avenue to open us up to possibilities that are beyond what we're currently thinking or even know are available.
Yes, you see, that is very true. And you could look at these as little mini portals to finding the truth about who you really are. Little mini portals. Every time you stay open to anything that you hear and you go, well, what if that was true? Then what happens is your mind, in its closed, terrified state, which is so even when people think it isn't, that opens that door up ajar just a little bit. In doing so, allows you to then expand beyond where it is that you've ever been before, which allows you to embrace life with your arms wide open, with your heart wide open, which allows you to know love in a way that you never have before.
And what that just brought back for me is what you've been saying for so many weeks now, is you asked option people with asking the question, what's so great about this that's happened to me that I've not seen before? And it's really the same thing. It's being available and open to possibilities that are beyond the mind.
Exactly.
That's very cool.
That's why at night, and I invite all of you to do this, I say to myself, take me beyond where my mind knows to go. Your mind is a necromancer. Your mind is really not your best friend. It is a constructed, recycled program container.
It's a minefield.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's true. So take me beyond where my mind knows to go. Say it more than once a day. And you'll see that you'll suddenly have thought processes and answers to things that you never even thought of. And you don't have to go searching for them with your premeditated or your what's the word I'm looking for? Predetermined ways of having the answer come.
Because it never will. It'll always come from somewhere when you're not thinking about it. Very often I'll do those questions and want an answer and nothing happens. And I say, oh, well. And then a month, 2 months later, something just pops in my mind and everything gets clear. And the answer to that is just trusting that it'll come when it's supposed to and when it's in your best interest to do so.
And you'll move from trusting to knowing to where you won't even think about it anymore. Yeah. You'll be so living in the moment that just whatever happens in that moment, you don't think, you just be.
Right. So we're about ready to wrap up here. I do want to just recommend that everybody, if you haven't listened to it, and it's what Miles was referring to, is our last episode was called The Game Called Life. Very powerful. We've gotten a lot of feedback about that show, and I really recommend, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it's number 32. The episode number is number 32. And I think that I know you will really get a ton out of it. So, Esateys, let's get to the Ask Esateys question.
Okie dokie. So, the question that I invite you to repeat throughout your week until we meet again is, what if in every moment I was first at peace within? What if in every moment I was first at peace within? Because when you come from a state of peace and centeredness, what'll happen is you'll know exactly how much time to designate to your relationship, to your career, to your hobbies or whatever. There's a balance that occurs. And always stay awake as to whether you are doing whatever you're doing through fear, which is another way of saying should, versus, oh my gosh, this just lights me up and I'm so excited.
Cool. Well, okay, I really enjoyed this show.
I did too.
This was awesome.
Fun.
And I have to tell you, to be honest, I learned an awful lot about myself just as it was coming through, and I realized some of those ahas that I never thought of before. So I'm in great gratitude for having had this session with you.
Awesome.
Cool.
I'm in great gratitude that you're my partner.
And likewise. So we will see you next week, and we will be looking forward to another great session with you.
Make this the most awesome week of your life so far, and know that you are loved. Find somebody to hug today.
We should get a bumper sticker. Find someone to love today or to hug today. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Until next week. Bye for now.